Palestinians, he's seen as a terrorist by most Israelis and was convicted of multiple murders in an Israeli court. But the murder convictions, on the face of it, are bad. On the face of it, The one thing that it's hard to disagree with the Israeli and US governments on when it comes to Palestine is that the Palestinians do have awful leadership. I mean, President Mahmoud Abbas is 89 years old, and his original 4-year presidential term ran out 15 years ago. Abbas presides over a deeply corrupt administration and leads security forces that basically do Israel's bidding. According to a poll taken last June, about 90% of Palestinians want Abbas to step down. But who'd replace him? If only Palestinians could find a unifying, younger leader with charisma, credibility, popular support, and the ability to negotiate peace with Israel and end the illegal occupation. Oh wait, they don't have to find him. We know where he is and where he has been for nearly 23 years now, Israel's Megiddo prison. Yes, he's the man The Economist magazine describes as the world's most important prisoner, who The Guardian describes as the most popular Palestinian leader alive, and who multiple writers and commentators have referred to as the Palestinian Mandela. Marwan Barghouti is his name. He's the 65-year-old former leader of Tanzim, a Palestinian militant organization and an offshoot of the Fatah party that President Abbas also belongs to. And Marwan Barghouti is currently serving 5 consecutive life sentences behind bars in Israel for murder. Now, you might be wondering, how can you compare a convicted murderer to Nelson Mandela? How can he be the leader? And I'll come to those murder convictions in a moment. But let's just start with this. In that poll I mentioned from last summer, in which 90% of Palestinians said they wanted to see the back of President Abbas, a majority also said they wanted the imprisoned Barghouti as their elected leader. Being popular and being in prison, by the way, isn't the only thing Barghouti has in common with the late Nelson Mandela. Like him, Barghouti has spent decades working towards uniting his people under one banner, even agreeing to a 2-state solution in order to end the occupation and the conflict with Israel. As an analysis by Al Jazeera last year noted, it may well be Barghouti's commitment to a 2-state solution that presents the most significant threat to an Israeli government seemingly determined to backtrack upon the agreements it undertook in Oslo in the 1990s. That commitment comes despite Barghouti being subjected to Israeli violence and terror for most of his life. And yet, in 1996, that same Barghouti was leading a pro-peace march alongside Israeli peace activists and denouncing a string of suicide bombings inside of Israel by Hamas. To be clear, Barghouti isn't a pacifist and has never claimed to be one. In the Second Intifada, he did lead a militant group in the fight against Israel, Tanzim. As he wrote in the Washington Post in 2002, during that Second Intifada, while I and the Fatah movement to which I belong strongly oppose attacks and the targeting of civilians inside Israel, our future neighbor, I reserve the right to protect myself, to resist the Israeli occupation of my country, and to fight for my freedom. While Barghouti is seen as a hero by many Palestinians, he's seen as a terrorist by most Israelis and was convicted of multiple murders in an Israeli court. But the murder convictions, on the face of it, are bad. On the face of it, that is, because there are so many things wrong with the conviction and with the imprisonment of Marwan Barghouti, so many red flags that suggest his imprisonment by Israel may very well have been about taking him out of the political arena and eliminating the chance of having that elusive partner for peace. In August of 2001, for example, he narrowly escaped an assassination attempt on the Fatah party headquarters that, according to Israel, he was not the target of, which I would say is red flag number 1. They were already trying to kill him long before they'd convicted him of any crimes. Then, in April of 2002, he was captured by Israeli forces in Ramallah, where he was kept incommunicado for a month. Red flag number 2. During his interrogation, Barghouti has said several methods of torture were used against him, including sleep deprivation, hours spent sitting in painful positions on a chair with nails protruding from its back, and even false information leaks that claimed he confessed to the crimes he's accused of and that they implicate the former Palestinian president Yasser Arafat too. That's red flag number 3. After his arrest, Israel decided to hold Barghouti's trial in Tel Aviv. Red flag number 4, and here's why that's a huge red flag, because he was arrested in the occupied West Bank, but tried in Tel Aviv inside occupier Israel. In the past, some Israeli peace advocates have suggested a pardon for Barghouti. But listen to this. In the wake of October the 7th, Hamas added Marwan Barghouti's release to its terms for a Gaza ceasefire deal with Israel. And yet, last May, Middle East Eye reported that senior officials in the Palestinian Authority, not just the Israeli government, the PA, insisted Barghouti not be released from Israeli prison, not be part of the ceasefire negotiations, because they believe, wait for it, quote, Barghouti's release would threaten the leadership of PA President Mahmoud Abbas. The PA apparently said to Israel, keep him, we don't want him back. Now, they've since denied those reports, but it is obvious that Barghouti threatens Abbas's decrepit, weak and corrupt leadership, and also threatens Israel's far-right pro-occupation and anti-peace government. Since October the 7th, he's been held in solitary confinement in conditions that even one Israeli human rights group has described as torture. Barghouti's family and Palestinian human rights groups say he's been repeatedly assaulted by Israeli prison guards, which the Israeli authorities, of course, deny. And so, with each passing day, with each stretch in solitary confinement, and with each human rights infringement, the chances of Marwan Barghouti ever getting out of prison and leading his people in a peace process with Israel continue to decline. Palestine's Mandela has not yet had his long walk to freedom, and nor, of course, had the Palestinian people.